Dude, I watched a fucking video. It was like, it was who the fuck was it? It was Super Saiyan Gogeta versus Master Roshi, right?
Yep.
And the guy's like, the Gogeta fires off a Kamehameha, and so he's like, oh dude, I want to do a beam clash. So Master Roshi also does the Kamehameha, and then the second he launches it, he gets immediately turned to dust.
Yeah.
No beam clash, just Master Roshi gets fucking Yamcha. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah, ironically, there's actually a weird thing that I've learned, and I don't know if it's actually a glitch thing or not, but probably be talking about that afterwards. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dark Council podcast with me and Jake here to provide the glorious lore of Star Wars to all the peoples. And we got our first of the spooky segment today. So
spooky.
We have already well, people who are reading don't know. People who are seeing this probably don't know, or they do. We are going to be doing a segmented series we're doing kind of a multi-part coverage for this one. And this is the first part to this. So we are going to be covering our first planet episode, because I didn't realize it until I started thinking about it. This is our first actual planet episode. We're going to be talking about the home of the witches, the planet of Dathomir.
Witchy woman.
Which, well, canon doesn't give a whole lot doesn't give a whole lot that isn't just like, here's lore about the Night Sisters that I'm going to go ahead and spoil. That is what we are covering next. We're going to be doing a dedicated episode after this to the Night Sisters and the Witches of Dathomir.
Dope.
That'll be
I'm down.
That'll be
Dope.
Next week's episode.
Absolutely okay with this.
Because the way I want to do this, it's probably going to give a bit away for what the next couple parts will be. This is basically a Legacy of Dathomir, what this segment's going to be covering. It's going to be a Legacy of Dathomir, which means this will cover the planet itself, the witches and the Night Sisters, and some of their infamous characters that are tied to them.
Okay.
So we will be going into a lot with those. The Night Sisters are probably going to have a lot more to the lore side. I don't know how long this episode will go, but it's probably going, just due to the history side, I may have been able to cram this into a much shorter segment, so we will be probably have a bit more to discuss about it overall, rather than just the actual, here's the information kind of deal. Because there was the planet itself was providing a lot of interesting, weird information. And I'll probably poke back to a lot of it if it's something that just completely blows our minds or something like that. There's a lot of the coverage I avoided was tied to lore focused on Night Sisters and the Witches, because I wanted to do them as their own separate episode, because they're going to have a lot more meat and potatoes to their story. There's a lot more for their stuff. Yes.
Is this going to cover the Acolyte too?
No.
Oh,
no, they don't.
Christ.
No, they're not Witches of Dathomir. They don't exist.
They're not. I thought those were. I never watched Acolyte.
They're not Dathomirian.
Oh,
so there is an actual. So
Christ.
I'm gonna go into that, because that is actually a big history point for the planet. Is when that whole culture develops on the planet. So, starting off our summary, as we have started to do for everything, giving the brief rundown for how we mix this off. Dathomir is a planet believed to be in its own system, either mixed with the Hapen cluster or part of the Quelli oversector. It is the home of the Night Sisters, a group of matriarchal force-using women who ride rancors, the main apex predator of the planet, as well as the Qui, a descendant race of the Qua. Its
Say, hold
space.
on.
Don't. I'm gonna touch on them. I know
Okay.
you're gonna say
Okay.
something. I know you're gonna say
Okay.
something. We're gonna touch on those first as soon as we start the history segment. I knew exactly as I saw it.
Okay. Okay.
So, the actual planet itself remains over 90% of this planet is actually unexplored, even after the New Republic timeline, even well
Crazy.
after the fall of the Empire. The planet is still over 90% unexplored.
Crazy.
The planet has also seen a lot of battles even before the Clone Wars. And well, without even having to say anything, is grossly and powerfully tied to the Force. So, we're going to start with the actual geography, because covering the planets, I wanted to kind of go over a lot of the core details on them, and geography of Dathomir was actually weird, because I have only ever seen Dathomir visually in Forces of Corruption, in
Mm-hmm.
Empire at War, and in uh, all the showings of it in canon, which means like the weird, creepy red mist jungle places. Like that's what the image for Dathomir I think a lot of people have is.
Did you not play Force Unleashed?
I You don't go to Dathomir in Force Unleashed unless it's in 2.
I think it's in 2.
I definitely did
'Cause
not
I
play.
definitely remember
did
fighting
not play
on a
2.
jungle planet full of rancors.
Oh no, that's Felucia.
That's Felucia?
Yeah, because Felucia has its own breed of rancors on it. You can, because
Ugh,
that's
but there's
where.
people riding them.
Yeah, yeah, Mira.
And one of
was
them
it
had fucking lightsaber
Mara?
nunchucks.
They were lightsaber tonfas.
Tonfas.
I do
That
remember
wasn't
that fight.
Dathomir?
No, that was Felucia. I remember that
Oh my
distinctly
god.
because that's after you kill Shaak Ti on the planet. That's when you go back the second time because you have to go
Oh,
get
that's
Bail Organa from
crazy.
the planet. Remember?
That's crazy. Yeah, I remember it now. Fuck.
Yeah, because
I
you
could have
fight.
sworn that was Dathomir. The
No.
entire time I'm like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, do Dathomir. Sick.
No, because I remember the species of rancors you fight there are a different breed of rancors entirely because those are bull rancors.
Ugh.
No, I thought for a moment like, wait a minute, am I being fucking gaslit? Because I don't
I'm
fucking
gaslighting
remember.
you live on stream.
On stream, chat. On stream.
Oh fuck, dude.
I didn't even fucking think about. My mind took a moment to register. I'm like, I know for a fact I did not. You don't go to it in the first game, so it had to have been the second that you're thinking of. And then you brought up like the lady. You brought up like was like Maris. That's what her name was. Maris Brood.
Fucking Star Wars ass name.
Even funnier because she spends the entire like few months after you fucking vanish killing her master, brooding.
Yeah, it's bad, dude.
Like I
So
distinctly
fucking bad.
remember her fight. I remember her fight because her fight is mixed with the Bull Rancor fight.
Yeah.
I remember that distinctly. Even when I played it on the freaking Wii when I first played the game, because I played both.
You played Force Unleashed on the Wii?
I played it on both. I played it on the Wii and I played it on PC. Because I bought it. I bought the Ultimate Sith Edition, which is the one that came out for the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that I played was the one that originally came out for the PS2 and the Wii. That was the one I had the most experience with. Because I remember the dueling mode that also existed with it. And me and my brother got these like actual lightsaber controller holsters for our Wii. So we had those, and whenever we were playing, we'd go in and just mess around with those the entire time. Like we'd have slot our controllers in, we turn on the lightsabers, and we'd go in and just duel each other.
Fair.
Like, that'd be a way we'd settle
Dude,
arguments, was going in to duel each other like that.
I tried playing Force Unleashed 2 on Steam. I bought it on
I can't
Steam.
play it on Steam.
It doesn't
physically
run.
doesn't work.
It doesn't run.
And I know there's supposed to be a workaround, but it's...
The workaround is to delete all of the cutscenes.
Like, what even is the point then?
Yeah.
Like...
Because I can get through, like, the first, like, little opening, but the second I get to, like, the next cutscene where, like, you're trying to escape the planet, it crashes every single time.
That's where mine is, because it crashes every time after you get to the end of Camino.
Yeah. Like, I board the ship, and then the second the cutscene starts, crashes. Yep.
Get a fucking fatal error report. It's dumb.
The only way to get around it is to delete every single cutscene after that point. So I read that and went, nah, return the game. It doesn't run.
Yep, so Dathomir geography. So planet overall is actually largely temperate with a lot of forests and jungles. There is large deserts and snow-capped mountains. But there is also a single massive ocean that spans the planet, as well as a large number of tar pits. Because
that sounds about right.
Why wouldn't there be? Planet is diverse not only in its biomes, but its wildlife as well. Because, Lord, there are a lot of weird creatures that exist on Dathomir. Canon only actually expanded on that list, believe it or not. And you actually get to see a lot of the more crazy things that come out from that, especially when you play Fallen Order. You actually go to Dathomir for part of Fallen Order story.
I love Star Wars monsters. Like creatures, they're the coolest.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
There's a lot of really fun... Because I know that's why you like playing the Creature Tamer in Galaxies. Because you just like playing around with all the fucking monsters.
That one there, that's my pet now. I'm taking it.
Because I remember when we first started our new characters in Restoration, we were both looking at it. We both saw this like Varactyl that somebody left out in the fucking desert, right outside Mos Eisley, and it had been sitting there forever.
Dude, here's the best part, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to Kashyyyk, found a bunch of Varactyls.
Yep.
You can't get them as pets. You have to do a quest line for it.
Wow.
I found the nest and killed the boss Varactyl. And then I went to loot the nest and it says, you have no interest in this item. I'm like, fuck you, I don't.
The hell I don't.
Give me it. I want the egg. Give me. No, it's locked behind a quest line. And that sucks so bad, dude. I went to Kashyyyk because I was like, I wonder what's here. And Kashyyyk's a small planet because it's essentially a theme park.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, cool. And I saw Varactyl. Oh, there's Varactyls here? Oh my god. So I ran around the whole map looking for baby Varactyl. Couldn't find one. Found a nest guarded by a boss. And I went, that's gotta be it, right? I can grab the egg from there. Killed the boss. Couldn't grab the egg. Fuck.
And then you realized you have to go on a quest.
Oh, here's the worst part, right? I found a quest line that's like, oh yeah, here, kill a bunch of bantha and then take them to a different planet. Like, take their pelts. I'm like, okay, cool. As I'm flying to the different planet, it's a space mission, and I get jumped by dudes who are like 2 tiers higher than me. And I went, oh, cool. I can't beat this. So let's see if I can't find, like, a better ship. No one's selling better ships for the Empire. I'm so mad!
Dude, that's why we made the fucking crafter character.
But no one's playing anymore. It's just me.
The entire reason we were making the fucking crafting characters, because I was the one who was supposed to be fucking building the ships, and I can't fucking build the damn ships because I'm stuck doing the droid stuff first. First of all, I'm doing the droid stuff.
You are disappointing me.
I'm doing the droid stuff because the droid stuff gives us parts for the ship. There's parts we get for the ship that we can use for the droids. Droids give us a lot of, like, the droid cores, because we need those in order to give us some boost to our ship. and we can't do. Honestly, that's the biggest thing that I think blows my mind is the fact we don't have anybody selling a lot of the higher tier ships, because even like Rebel and pirate ships and that don't have a really big scope to them.
No one's selling ships. I'm like,
Like, whose man's is you? Why are you playing a Star Wars game?
And I even went around. I went around to like a bunch of different like malls and stuff that are like player-made towns.
You went to a bunch of the different bazaars and everything and tried to find some like
not even the bazaars. I went to actual malls to find like character-made.
You went to the actual like
shops.
character shops.
Yeah, I went 3 different planets, looking at every town I could find. No one is selling these parts. I just want the Varactyl. Fuck.
Sucks, dude. It's bad.
All right, we should get back on track.
I mean, we're gonna have the time to pad out, so it's fine. Because this, I don't think this one will go near as long as a lot of our other ones will. Because the Planet one's gonna cover a lot of.
I don't think people want to hear me complain about not having a ship in a dead MMO. Oh.
So here was actually one weird thing that I learned. So I had always thought about I'd actually never thought about this until I saw it described for Dathomir. So the planet has what is considered a 90% standard gravity, which in Star Wars terms, most planets and moons have an acceleration of gravity at or near standard gravity of 9.81 meters per second. Meters per squared. Meters per second squared.
Hold on. Say that again?
Planets and moons have an acceleration of gravity at or near standard gravity of 9.81 meters per second squared.
Yeah, that's 1G.
So they have the entire thing has basically. I never thought about that. Like, did they ever actually? Has there never been this mention of like, what if Star Wars ever used a different metric of what's considered standard gravity? Like, that was something that I thought about, and I had to think about, like, weird thing. But Dathomir is considered on the lower end of has a lower gravity on its planet at 90% standard.
Okay, so it is a smaller planet than Earth.
Yeah, it is 90%. It is a smaller planet, and it is actually because of the lower gravity that there is a plausible reason as to why its apex predator, the Rancor, stands bigger than any other species of Rancor around the galaxy at 8 to 10 meters, which approximates to about 26 to 32 feet tall.
That is fucking massive.
That is how tall a Dathomirian Rancor stands.
That's 2 stories.
Yes.
2.5 stories.
You are looking at a creature that stands the size of a 2.5-story house.
Jesus Christ! I want one.
Well, so did the Ricotta, but we get to them in a minute. Yeah, no, they are considered the largest. Not only are they extremely larger than most of their species, the plant life around the planet stands incredibly taller than what normal tree lines would. Like, the only planet that I think comes close in exception is like Endor or Kashyyyk. Those are like the big forest jungle planets. Like, those two are the only ones I think that have trees bigger than what you'd find on Dathomir.
Yeah.
Because,
well, I mean fucking trees are. Worship trees are nuts.
They build entire cities into those damn trees.
Not only that, they hang cities between them.
They built their entire capital in the trees.
Well, yeah, because they're arboreal.
Like,
I found out whilst I was listening to the Thrawn trilogy
mhm.
that Wookiees have retractable claws.
Yeah,
That's insane!
yeah, that's how they can climb the trees like that.
That's crazy.
Like, I think you even see.
I thought they had their claws out all the time. And they're like, no, they're longer than you think. Like, what?
You know, they are full on like razor nails. Those are like
Imagine like a Wookiee just barehanded hitting you. That's enough to break your bones.
now.
And
Imagine he
then you
throws
have
his
to
claws.
imagine he's
Now
got
imagine he
knives
goes-
for hands.
Imagine he goes Wolverine on your head.
Oh my god! Dude, no wonder the fucking
Trandoshans hunt them.
yeah. Dude, Trandoshans hunt them. And the fucking
Empire
why can't I remember their name now? The Nogri fucking lose. Like,
Yeah,
dog.
Noguri got bodied.
Dude, the Nogri are like a third of their size. Just get fucking squished, stupid.
I think that's
God
actually how they
damn.
kill. I think that's actually how they kill one of them. Like they just stomp out one of them.
You don't see how they die. You just know that there was 3 of them, and then there's 1, and now he's a captive.
Who ends up serving Leia.
Yeah, dude. Okay. Real quick. If anyone in chat who has not read or listened to the Thrawn trilogy books, stop listening for like 30 seconds. Just like for 30 seconds. Starting right now. Thrawn's last line after he fucking dies is so good.
Yep.
It was so artfully done. Dies. Ugh! Oh, it's so fucking awesome. He died with a smile on his face because he was killed artfully. Fuck, that's so cool. Okay, spoiler over now.
Had his fucking nerd out moment. He got it out. We have been fighting hard not to go in heavy about Thrawn and his lore. Like, we have been fighting every fiber of our being not to go into Thrawn and Revan.
The next audiobook I just downloaded is the essentially the Empire of the Hand books.
Oh yeah, the Thrawn duology.
Oh, I can't fucking wait, dude. The problem is like I started listening to it and I'm like, oh shit, Leia and Han have a 3rd kid.
Yeah.
When the fuck did that happen? So I started
Dark
going through
Empire.
like, yeah. So I'm going through. I'm looking through like the fucking chronology of the books. I'm going, oh fuck, dude, this is way farther ahead.
Yeah, they have Anakin Solo in Dark Empire.
Yeah, I'm like, this is way. I gotta go back and find these other books. So I got like 2 chapters into the Thrawn duology and went, I can't listen to this. I need to catch up on this other shit. Fuck, I understand now why Disney was like, nah, we ain't doing this shit.
Dude, it's a fucking mess.
Oh, God, it would be like trying to like, here's a cool 40K book. You're like, oh, cool. Who are these characters? From like the 3rd part of the fucking Horus Heresy books. God damn it.
Dude, that's the exact fucking thing that's the exact same logic. Like, you look at the Legends array of Star Wars books. As good as a lot of them are, they are, by all account, there are a fair number that are nowhere near the quality that we wish they could be. Like, there's a fair number that are actually, arguably, a bit as trash as some of the stuff as Disney has put out.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot in that
But
mess.
The problem is then, because it's written by, like, 30 different authors.
Yeah, no.
You get some of the bad ones, and then the good authors go, that was a good idea. Let me expand on it, though. And then you get a good book based on the bad book. And you're like, fuck! I gotta read the bad one!
Dude, that's the entire problem.
Fuck you, Timothy Zahn, you sack of shit! You fucking hack! Why do you gotta do this to me?
Dude, that's the entire reason I have a problem with. That's the entire thing with the New Jedi Order books. The entirety of the New Jedi Order series is just, here's an entire fustercluck of just, what the hell? Like, here's a bunch of shit happening all at once.
See, I thought Timothy Zahn was like, I have my own, like, so it's the Thrawn trilogy, goes into the Thrawn duology, goes into like his other books. I'm like, Timothy Zahn probably keeps all of his stuff fairly together.
No.
No,
because we actually touched
heck.
on. So we actually touched on this when we did Sunterfell. Because if you recall, Sunterfell gets involved with some of the stuff that comes up in the Empire of the Handbook.
Yeah.
Like, he's heavily involved with a lot of the dealings of the Empire of the Hand after Thrawn dies.
Which is one of the great reasons why I was sitting there thinking, like, oh, dude, Empire of the Hand's going to be next. I get to figure out, like, cool things about Sunterfell. And it's going to be so... No. Read the other books first, stupid. I don't wanna!
Yeah, and it's even worse when you have to consider that a lot of Fell's stories are told mostly through the X-Wing comics rather than the novels.
Yeah. I refuse to read I'm not going to fucking read the comics too. Those are so much harder to get a hold of.
Especially since those are Dark Horse. Those are Dark Horse comics. And
they don't exist.
They exist. They're just stupid expensive because they're fucking collector items.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend $130 on a comic book.
Yeah,
that's like part 1 of 17.
Actually, it's like, for the X-Wing series, you're looking at like I think it's 34 in the X-Wing comics.
Once I become filthy, stinking rich.
Because the X-Wing comics are the longest running of any of the Dark Horse comic books.
Once I become filthy, stinking rich, I'm going to buy those comics. And then I'm going to open them and read them and ruin their collector value. Because I want the story. I don't care if they're collectibles. I'll treat them nicely. I'll wear gloves while I read them. I'll treat them nice. I won't crease pages or anything. And they're going to go back in their sleeve when they're done. But I will open those bitches. It's going to happen.
It is going to happen. Yeah, So
why can't I just get digital versions of these fucking comics and read them? Fuck you, Dark Horse.
Honestly. So, further note about some of the Rancors, by the way. I'm having to re-rail this fucking shit. So there's actually some very strange notes about Rancors that I didn't know before.
Yep.
So Rancors on Dathomir, as we have established, are the largest of any other species, and it's even more so that they are the apex predator to the planet itself. Most commonly found there and were actually picked up and studied by the Rakatans when they came to the planet in their conquest of strong force-sensitive worlds.
Oh.
They took various specimens of Rancor and started to examine and experiment on them. Ultimately, they did not stay long, but that is also due to the fact that they suffered a big plague when they got there. Alongside that, apparently Rancors are actually a semi-sentient species.
Oh, I hate that.
What
do you mean?
Believe it or not, though it's not until much later in the New Republic time when one of the herd mothers, which another note of the Rancors is they are a herd-based species. They usually travel in large herds, and the herd mother is considered the leader of these packs. And one of them, who would later be named as Tosh, actually learned to read and write and would pass that on to her kin. It was also...
Hold on. Are you telling me that you can teach a Rancor how to read and write?
Yep, they are...
That's insane. That's crazy.
Do you want to know what's even more wild?
What?
Sometime in the Galactic Republic's later years before the Clone Wars, they actually developed primitive armor and weapons.
So, Rancor aren't semi-sentient. They're sentient at a tribal level.
They're semi-sentient because they don't act the same as most other sentient species. They have the capability to become sentient, but they are very primal, which is what keeps them in that sort of tribal state.
So
very primal aspects.
They're dolphins that can construct armor and weapons.
If you want to put it that way. I'd akin it more to the idea of give a monkey a typewriter and he'll make a gun.
Okay, hold on. Because you can teach an ape sign language. So you can teach them a language which they can then use to communicate with.
Yep.
I don't see them building weapons and armor, though. I see them finding a stick and being like, this is good stick, hit with stick. I don't see them going, you know what would be even better than that? If we were to strap a fucking stone to the end of this stick and then kill an animal and then turn it into leather armor.
I'm almost certain that a lot of it probably comes in to the fact that they are heavily utilized by the witches of Dathomir as war beasts and riding mounts. I assume that they have a lot of heavy influence on the Rancor's ability to develop like that. Because I'm sure they've definitely patterned their Rancors to wear armor like that. But I know for a fact, I'm certain that if they have the ability to learn to read and write, they would be able to develop a very primitive level of armor and weaponry. Even if it's just use big bone or pull freaking tree out of stump to wield as club.
Yes. So what I'm getting at is they can learn to read and write.
Yes.
Which means they have their own ideas.
Yes.
That they need to tell and communicate to another living being.
Yes.
Which means, in my book, they are sentient, not semi-sentient. They are sentient. If they have their own ideas, that they're like, I want to explain this to you, that's sentience.
I think the problem is they don't communicate the same way like that. Most commonly, they're not typically like that. They have the capability to do that. That's the thing I think that makes them. It's almost the same way that you can like read animal body language. Like that's kind of the way I think I would attribute it. Like you can understand very primitively what they're about, but it's not something that they could openly ever like communicate about. I don't think they would be able to develop that level of communication like normal sentient species.
I'm gonna have to fucking Google the difference between sentience and sapience. Thanks, Google, for listening in on my conversation, immediately knowing what I'm trying to type.
Of course they are.
Sentience doesn't require self-awareness. Sapience, on the other hand, is often described as consciousness or the ability to reason. So they're sentient, they're not sapient.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Why? Okay, here's the best part. I read that because it just popped up, and then I realized the source it came from is the Wikipedia. Fuck you! Fuck you! What do you mean? I hate the internet. I hate the internet.
It knows what we're doing.
This sucks, dude. I hate it here.
There is no privacy. You are always at risk.
That's insane.
The internet is always watching.
I hate that it's watching. It's watching and listening, and it knows what I'm trying to do before I do. The internet AI is smarter than I am, and I don't like it. Okay, anyway, they made
Yeah,
armor and weapons.
it, the other thing of note is again the other big thing of note is they're big herd species, so they tend to travel around more pack mentality rather than solitary hunter. So that makes them all the more dangerous, especially because of that.
So 2.5-story tall raptors.
Basically.
I don't like that. The fact, actually, yeah, the fact that they do that. They work as a pack like wolves. So you see one of them, but you know there's more. That's awful.
Yeah, like that's the biggest reason, and I think that's exclusive for Dathomirian Rancor specifically. Like I don't think that's how. I don't know if that's common. No, that's common trait for Rancors in general, but being that they are the most common form of, being that they are the biggest and probably the most common breed of Rancor, they are the most common subspecies of Rancor. I would figure that that probably is another reason why the planet is as dangerous as it is. They're like, honestly, I think outside of like, this is a creature that you would typically see a hut or somebody having as their like their garbage disposal for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you typically attribute Rancor to this is a creature that would this is a creature that on the surface would probably not be as like, this is not something you look at as the cuddly monster teddy bear thing, which ironically both Clone Wars and both Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett made them out to be. Like, because there's bits of those with two different Rancors that are shown. Because Boba gets his own Rancor, which is given to him by Danny Trejo, who becomes his Beastmaster.
I totally forgot he was there. Oh man,
He's
I
given
love
a
Danny
Rancor.
Trejo.
He's given a Rancor as an apology gift by the Hutt for the misdeeds and having Chrysanthemum nearly fucking kill him. And he's given a pet Rancor with Danny Trejo becoming his fucking Beastmaster. So you've got Tamora Morrison, Ming Na, and Danny Trejo. You could not ask for a better cast, honestly.
Uh, I love Danny Trejo.
So good.
What a good.
What's wild is I remember he actually took that role because big he's apparently a big like pit bull activist. Like he
Yep.
tries to make people understand that pit bulls are not these dangerous creatures. And that was actually something he wanted to do with his role in that movie, trying to use Rancors as like a now a analog for pit bulls. Because when when he gets Boba to initially meet the Rancor that he gives him, he has it blindfolded, and apparently he tells him like it won't become hostile to anybody but the it'll recognize whoever the first person that communes with him. So
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, Boba goes up to start petting him. He gives him like goes to pet him, lets him smell him, and after that they lift the blindfold and the Rancor is completely fine with him, which shows that they do have that ability to be tame and aren't just the big monster creatures like we've always depicted them as.
Yep.
Because I
But
know for a
imagine being
fact,
that big of a Rancor and having to be blindfolded for like most of your life.
I mean they do well, I mean they do that. Like that's actually another thing I think he brings up is like these are kept solitary. These are kept in clutches as pups, and then they are when given off to when they're sold off to somebody as a pet. Usually, they are blindfolded so that the one they recognize as their master essentially is the first person they see. The first, I think that was something that they brought up, and I could be wrong. It's been a hot minute since I've actually watched Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Dathomir and Rancors have their own like weird, unique traits to them, and I'll probably get into a lot of the crazier shit that they can do, especially when I start going into the Night Sisters when we do that episode, because they use Rancors religiously with the witches. Like they are their main mode of transportation and their main war mounts.
Yeah.
But now we actually start dipping in on the history of Dathomir itself. So Dathomir was initially inhabited by two groups. The first comes up in the year 1000 BBY, 100,000 BBY. This is the Qua, who I know you have a lot of questions about. So these were Dathomir's original native populace. The Qua were a race who were one of these many weird precursor races prior to the establishment of the Galactic Republic that existed on Dathomir. They were a hyper-technological race that developed these large superstructures and weapons known as infinity gates. These were hidden away in larger pyramid-like structures called star temples. These infinity gates actually served as one of the early recorded methods of space travel used primarily by the Qua.
I'm sorry. Real quick. Are you telling me that these guys built stargates?
Basically,
They built them in pyramids
yep.
as used for travel amongst the stars.
And these had the strength. The strength of these were even capable of pulling a planet, its moon, and even its star with it. These gates were capable of moving an entire star system.
Are the Quad just Gould?
I knew this gonna be.
Are the Quad just Gould? Well, no, because they were able to pull star systems, so they would be the ancients.
Yeah, they'd be the ancients.
That's insane.
They'd be like the ancients.
That's insane.
What makes it even wilder is so after a certain point, long unknowns rose to what became of the Qua, whose prowess as a technological superpower would actually degrade them over time for various unknown reasons into a lower species of tribal blue reptilian nomads called the Qui.
So they turned into the Queen.
Yes. They over time were degraded into the Qui. Though their ability to use technology heavily dropped, the reverence of the star temples and what was inside them would persist throughout that species. And though the Qui would actually be more commonly known for being the wandering nomad race that roams the deserts of Dathomir. They would take up a lot of their homing in the deserts around Dathomir. It was also sometime later in the year 36453 BBY where the second official race would come about, that being the first colony of humans. These beings were actually part of the original Jedi Order. Not the Jedi Order.
The Jedi.
The Jedi, who
with
were
two
their
eyes.
with 2 eyes and a hyphen.
Yep.
Because these were the Jedi's predecessor before they got their weird mentality about shit. But this is actually in large part why Dathomir holds a large number of Force users on it. because of this colony that came from Tython, the Jedi's original homeworld. They came all the way from Tython and would populate the planet way later on. And come about over 6,000 years later, the Rakatans make their arrive, and this would be where they take specimens of Rancor to examine and experiment on, taking them back to their home of Lehan. And they would also be forced to return to their home world permanently after their species was threatened by a massive plague outbreak.
I thought it was a slavery.
Apparently, it's a plague outbreak that drove these guys back. May have been a slave revolt that caused the entire empire to fall, but I'm sure the plague may have actually been the first steps that caused their empire to fall.
Gotcha. Okay.
We may end up learning about that if we ever go into the Rakatans.
Sure, we will.
Sure. If we start doing Old Republic era shit, I'm almost definite we are going to go into the Rakatans.
For sure.
Was sometime even later, around 3000 BBY, when they would become involved in the greater dealings of the galaxy during the time of the Jedi Civil War, as well as the Great Galactic Civil War, where the Republic and the Sith Empire were having blows with each other. It was also around this time that Dathomir would also be run by a group called the Passian Empire, which would actually be where their founding culture would come up, and later they would end up falling under Sith control when they would come to form academies and strongholds around the planet. One more infamous one that, if nobody knows about, is around 1002 BBY. They actually produce the Brotherhood of Darkness would come about to form an academy there, which, for those who are unaware of what happens in that academy, go read Red Harvest. That's all I'm going to say.
Red Harvest? I don't know about Red Harvest.
Oh, trust me, you will. Mostly because we're going to probably touch on that, because little did I realize that we may end up having to touch on, because of Dathomir, we may end up having to take a note at a certain thing of Star Wars.
Oh, okay. I read the synopsis.
Yeah,
okay.
We're going to get to that some point later, because I think that may actually have to be covered before the whole Dathomir saga ends.
That might have to be covered before spooky season is over.
Well, that's probably going to be what happens after Night Sisters, but we're going to touch on that after. We'll talk about that after Night Sisters.
Okay.
So, obviously, the Brotherhood of Darkness make an academy there. They train a bunch of acolytes. A lot of fuck shit happens. And far later than that, the Republic rediscovers the world after losing track of it, and then start to set up penal colonies on the world. Basically dumping their criminals there to fend for themselves in the wilds.
Yeah,
some actual unknown infamous group of criminals that was dropped there were a group of infamous illegal droid builders who would produce a large series of illegal and dangerous battle droids. There wasn't actually anything that elaborated on that, unfortunately, and I kind of wanted to learn what that was about. Next part of history doesn't come up, however, until 600 BBY, where there's actually in 36,453 BBY, we have the first settlement of Force-using humans that arrive on the planet. It's in 600 BBY when the Jedi exiled a knight named Alia, who would become quite influential to their society, as she started to take the human populace and divide them. establishing a strong basis of force-using female warriors and forcing the men into subservient and lesser roles in their society.
Oh, I wonder who
This
that
would
could be.
start the basis for the groups of various clans who would become the Witches of Dathomir. The one most recognized of these is the Night Sisters, who were a dark side oriented clan who lived in the deep jungles. Some of the well-known names of these clans were actually typically after names of locations on the planet. We'll probably talk more about those when we actually get into Night Sisters, because there are some of those that come up pretty famously. So, skip ahead a little further, we reach 340 BBY, when the Jedi Academy ship Chuan Thor had crashed on the planet, leaving no survivors, and trapping the ship in a massive tar pit. Jedi Masters Yoda, Graton, and Volaton were sent to retrieve the ship, but were met by failed attempts every time. The wreck still remains on the planet to this day. Sometime after this, that the Night Sisters learned that they were capable of interbreeding with the Iridonian Zabrak, and they began to harbor a colony of them exclusively for servants, slaves, and mates. This clan would earn the name Night Brothers, as their relations exclusively lied with the Night Sisters. In the year 54 BBY, we arrive more closely to modern time, and a time actually relevant. This is where Darth Sidious arrived on the planet during his time under under Plagueis, and would take the young Zabrak, who would later be known as Darth Maul, from the planet as his apprentice,
Oof.
at behest of his mother, Caecina. Yeah, Caecina. And I will touch on that one when we go into more of the canon story of Dathomir, which is going to be a lot more brief because, like I said, that one is mostly just here's some lore. Here's some here's a bunch of lore about Night Sisters.
Yeah.
Like that's most of what the lore was. In 31 BBY, the Night Sisters would actually make a play using the Star Temple to try and destroy
Ooh.
the Republic's capital of Coruscant. Learning to utilize the Infinity Gate within it, and learning how to use its gravitational power to quite literally rip Coruscant apart. Their attempts would be thwarted, however, by the Jedi Knight, Quinlan Voss,
Hell
resulting
yeah,
in the
dude.
Star Temple's destruction and forcing the Republic to remove records of Dathomir from their database. It sometime about 10 years later, though, is when General Grievous would arrive and begin his mass extermination of the Night Sister clan under Mother Talzin. Would later arrive with and would sometime later in that same year return with Darth Sidious to kill Mother Talzin after her and Maul orchestrated a plot to kill Dooku by basically stealing his body, resulting in the Night Sisters greatly being diminished following the rise of the Empire. Was later after the Clone Wars that while they held no vested interest in the world, the planet was eventually given rights and ownership to a group of Drakmarian under the warlord Omog. A interesting point about that one, though, a kind of minor point is the Drakmarian were only they were just kind of given it. I don't think there was ever actually a vested interest. They never really do much with it, and sometime later the deed is actually lost to Solo. Han actually acquires the deed directly from Omog in a Sabbat game.
Of course he does.
Not only did the planet of Dathomir become a site of possible sanctuary from the Great Jedi Purge, But many other events would come to arise on this planet well even after the fall of the Empire. For instance, after the Clone Wars, the Empire established garrisons on the world, and the local Night Sister populace under one exile named Gethzarian came down to make a deal with the local governor, in which she managed to overthrow the Imperial garrison and lead a revolt of the planet. It was only through the works of Palpatine ordering planet-wide interdiction and the bombardment from Captain Zinj was Gethzarian thwarted in her attempted revolt. Zinja's works would even net him command of the Quelli Oversector, rising from Admiral to Grand Moff for his works, given command of the Super Star Destroyer Iron Fist, and total control of the Oversector. There were many instances of people slipping through the Imperial blockade. Rebels, various travelers, a dark Jedi named Melike, and even Tiberzon and Uri Finn would arrive on the planet. And I'm not even going to go into their stuff because we're probably going to withhold them for the night. Probably going to hold off on their stuff for the Night Sisters, and when we actually inevitably cover these on Consortium. Because they've got a small bit that we can cover. They're not going to be a long episode, but they'll probably be a short episode if I ever need a backup cover. Alongside this, the planet was also met with a massive outbreak of a dangerous viral plague called the Blackwing virus. With Darth Vader supervising the effort, many people were called in to take on these dangerous zombified monsters. For those of us who've played Galaxies, we are fully aware of what that is.
Ow. Yep.
That was their whole Halloween segment that they brought on.
Yep. It was cool.
Cool. It was also the only way you could actually see Rancors in that game. I think you actually get to fight a Rancor in that, don't you? At the very least, you get to see them.
Yes. You could fight one. It's been forever, dude.
Yeah, I know. Following the fall of the Empire, Zinj would come to denounce the Imperial ruling council and began to strike out as one of, if not the largest Imperial warlord threat to not only the New Republic, but the Empire itself. However, despite his efforts, and only through the aid of a New Republic Hapen alliance, Zinj would ultimately succumb to his fate over the planet Dathomir at the hands of the New Republic and the Hapes Consortium, following the destruction of the Imperial Super Star Destroyer Iron Fist and the destruction of his main base in orbit, Rancor Base.
Of course.
Ironically, that is actually what your capital in Thrawn's Revenge is when you play Zinja's Empire. You don't actually have a standard capital building like most other factions do. For Zinja's Empire, your capital is Rancor Base, and you can only build it on Dathomir.
Dope.
If you lose it, it's gone. You don't get another one.
Oh, well, not as dope. Probably why I don't like playing Zinj when I play that game.
Well, Zinj had a lot of early versions of the mod. Zinj was not a great one to play anyway, so that's shared interest. Like I didn't care for Zinj until they got to more recent updates. Especially right now, Zinj is actually one of the fun minor warlords to play. If you don't want to play the standard Empire, Zinj is actually one of the fun ones because he's actually how you can get. He actually exclusively gets Tiberzon and Uri Finn as heroes, and he also gets access to a lot of the pirate gameplay, the pirate stuff that the Hutts are actually the only other ones that get access to. They are the only other faction that get access to the pirate bases. You can actually build ships from those bases, which mostly just include Venator refit a special carrier and a pair of I think it's 2 different kinds of Corvettes. So not a whole lot, but it's still something.
Yeah.
Plus you get some
Better than
extra
nothing.
Plus you get some extra money, and you get to call in the pirate. You get to also build special pirate heroes, which is neat which is nice because it gives you some extra hero options. And some of them actually give some really good bonuses. Because I think there's one that actually gives you like I think there's actually one that gives like a 15% admin bonus. There's like a minus 15% discount for admin stuff. So you get a lot of like discount stuff if they're in orbit of a planet.
Nice.
But it gives some interesting stuff. But it was after Zinj actually loses Dathomir, that the Empire would not manage to hold the planet and would end up losing it to the New Republic in its entirety. And it would also later come to be fallen under the Hape's Corner, as Princess Solder actually marries one of the Night Sisters from the planet. And she actually goes on to become the new queen mother of the. Actually becomes one of the new queens of the Hape's Consortium. So that was kind of fucking wild.
Huh. Yeah, that's pretty weird.
It's pretty fucking wild. Because it's through her that she actually gets to. That's where this weird like mix is that I mentioned at the start of this. Because it originally is counted as part of the Quelly Oversector, but it also mentions in some stuff that Dathomir is its own sector. But then it also is later added as part, but it is also later considered part of the Hapes cluster because of the marriage between Isolde and one of the ruling Night Sisters, who basically admit it into the Hapes Consortium.
I love it when authors write different things. Different authors write different plans for the same planet.
The conflict actually comes from galaxies.
Really?
Galaxies and I think Rebellion are where the big controversy comes up. Because in Galaxies, it considers Dathomir part of its own sector. But it also records that the Hapes cluster, that it resides somewhere near the Hapes cluster. And they consider it part of the Hapes cluster.
Huh.
But in Rebellion, it's considered marked as part of the Quelly Oversector. So
Weird.
where its actual location in the galaxy is debated by where it's actually mixed in with, but I consider it part of the Quelly Oversector, being part of the Dathomir system, and was later admitted to the Hapes' empire after Isolde marries one of the Night Sisters.
Gotcha.
That's where my logic kind of cleans it up. That's something that I've had to do. That's been a big thing trying to go through a lot of Legends material, is you have to learn how to like in your head justify a lot of the mix matching of how this lore came about, how this thing happened, what this change to the lore means. Like,
so what I'm hearing is you have to
I have to
take
clean up the
canon
mess.
and then make it head canon.
I have to take source material and then justify it in my own head canon.
Nice.
What I have to
Wars
do
is fucking weird.
It is. It's so. It's actually following that same event of admission of the New Republic, basically putting their own, basically having their own embassy on the planet. They're come to establish their own embassy on the planet. Luke actually takes on some of the Night Sisters to train in his Jedi Praxium when he founds that later on in 11 ABY.
Forever ABY.
Somewhere. It's not long after, however, that during the time of the Crimson Empire in 12 ABY, that two Imperial officials, Sigurd Ranth and General Witt, were deployed on expedition and would come to later sack the New Republic base there, looking to find the Star Temple only to discover it destroyed.
Womp womp.
While Sigurd ends up departing the world, Witt stays behind and claims ownership of it and begins to establish a base there, claiming the artifacts that had been lost on the old Jedi ship, the Chuanthor. He had actually gone about reclaiming all of the lost relics and stuff from the old ship's wreckage.
I mean, it's just sitting there. You might as well.
As well. He would also go
Go to
about turning
waste.
the witches of Dathomir into soldiers or enslaving them. It was not long during this attempt that Vince's efforts were thwarted when the Jedi trainee Dal Connor and the Imperial Royal Guard Kyrkanos would be dispatched to the planet and destroy the Imperial base there.
Who would have thought that maybe enslaving and conscripting Night Sisters would end badly?
Especially when you do it after sacking a New Republic base.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Who would have thought? And to think you were brought down by a Padawan. Wow.
Couldn't be
Padawan with the
me.
help of an Imperial Royal Guard, by the way.
Yep, couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me. Wouldn't dare let that shit happen to me. We'll catch that shit happening to me. The next big thing that happens around this time is 7 years later in 19 BBY, the Dark Jedi Brachus would go on to work as an agent of the Second Imperium and aim to create a Shadow Academy on the planet. His efforts too were thwarted by the work of Luke Skywalker and Tenel Ka, who I believe is actually one of the main knights of his order, if I recall correctly. Not much history comes up after this until the Vong War.
Uh-oh.
And guess what a lot of the Vong were looking to blow up? Planets with strong force sensitivity. Guess what Dathomir is? A planet with strong force sensitivity.
Man, fuck the phone.
So, during the Vong War, Dathomir meets its truest threat and almost faces extinction during the massive invasion. While being one of the few groups to actually push back the Vong would ultimately decide on simply ravaging the entire planet using the Vong terraformers and completely wrecking the planet.
Yep.
After the Vong invasion of Dathomir, a Jedi Praxium would come to be founded when they would try to go about cleaning up the planets of the galaxy. During the reconstruction of a lot of planets in the galaxy, a Jedi Master of Luke's order would arrive and come to found a Praxium on the planet, and even later they would establish a new trade port in a space station to officially connect Dathomir to the greater galaxy. Sometime after that, Jason Solo also arrives and would come to be trained in the ways of the Witch's power, and later the New Republic or the Galactic Alliance, or at this point they are called, would later discover the Night Sisters' involvement with the Lost Village of the Sith and discover some possible threats of a Night Sister Sith alliance on the horizon. However,
Couldn't have
these
anything to
threats
do with Jason, though.
No, this one's like Abeloth time because that's Lost Valley of the
Oh,
Sith, Lost
oh,
Village of
ooh.
the Sith.
Oh, that's so much worse.
Yeah. Um. However, these threats don't actually seem to pass, as that's the only other piece of history around Dathomir. Dathomir's history does not record any further than this point. But canon, there's really only one major difference, where only a small bit of differences worth noting here in their history.
Yeah.
So, in Legends, the original race that populated Dathomir was not the Quar Qui, it was the Zepho, who, if you don't know, were the race of they were the weird precursor race that you have to go hunt their temples for in Fallen Order. That's why you go to Dathomir, because one of their planets is one of the planets the Zepho populated and had a colony on at one point in time was Dathomir. And as we know later, the Night Sisters arrive not as part of many of the human species that come to the planet, but as part of a extra galactic race that came from outside the galaxy in the in a place called Peridia. And
Um,
if you
I
don't,
I haven't played much of
don't worry, that one's not touched in Fallen Order. That's in the Ahsoka series.
oh yeah.
That's part of the Ahsoka series because that's where Thrawn ends up getting tossed to in canon.
Man, fuck canon.
Ezra somehow manages to send that motherfucker outside the galaxy with the Purrgil.
I feel like tossing Thrawn outside of the galaxy is a great way for him to return as like the Reapers.
I mean, he
You left
basically,
that man alone, uncontested, away from everyone. He's gonna come back with a massive fleet.
well, he doesn't necessarily come back with a massive fleet, but he does come back with a decent army. Do I know
Yeah.
what that army is?
Hmm.
Zombie soldiers.
Of course.
Night Sister zombie soldiers.
Of course.
Because instead of going to Wayland or Mercure to establish his power base, he goes to Dathomir to bring the witches from Peridia, who were still staying on Peridia, to Dathomir, so that they can go about rebuilding their clan, essentially. And they
Hmm.
brought their entire catacomb worth of corpses.
Oh, leave it to Thrawn to be like, I'm gonna make an army out of nothing.
And in this case, literally nothing. Let's have a bunch of hollow soldiers.
Crazy.
What's bad is that's our first actual canonical instance of Death Troopers.
Yeah.
Because that's actually how they hold up Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka when they come in to fight. They come in to chase
Oh.
Thrawn before he tries to escape. That's actually how they stall him. Is the Night Sisters call on this big ritual and start causing the stormtroopers that Thrawn had at his disposal to become reanimated so that they can never fully die.
Awful.
So now they're dealing with this endless wall of soldiers. And they're having to basically chase their way up a tower in order to get to Thrawn before he escapes.
Dude, okay. Thrawn is cool no matter what setting you put him in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like canon
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of sucks. But Thrawn's cool no matter what.
A lot of weird plot holes that canon makes.
Yeah.
A lot of weird plot holes and a lot of retcons.
But at least they kept Thrawn cool.
At least they kept Thrawn cool. Like that throughout this entire thing, all of our conversations have been bouncing back to Thrawn and the comics and the Dark Horse comics and shit like that. We've
Yeah,
been bouncing back and forth on the we've mostly been bouncing about with Thrawn more than anything. Like this is the most I think we've actually had Thrawn in our discussions of
yeah,
anything.
probably.
But
Okay, here's the thing though. It's because Thrawn is the coolest villain.
he is.
I think
I
he's the
know a
coolest
lot of
villain
people
in media.
So I know a lot of people actually bring up, because me and Beans have actually had this debate at one point or another. Do you truly consider Thrawn? How do you consider Thrawn a villain? Because I tried to justify this to him, and Beans tried to make this debate about like when I think of villain, I think of like Saturday morning cartoon evil or somebody obscenely evil like Palpatine, somebody going
Okay.
out of their way to cause malicious deeds.
So Thrawn, I consider Thrawn a villain because he is opposed to the heroes.
Uh huh.
That's why he's a villain. Because we already know, like, oh yeah, Luke Skywalker, he's a hero. Han Solo, that's a hero. Leia, she's a hero.
Yeah.
They're the protagonists. He is technically anti-protagonist, which is why he's a villain.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like, ha ha ha, I'm evil. He's not an evil villain. He's just a villain.
Yeah.
Because all he's doing is like, no, I'm remaking the Empire. Fuck it. To the point where like he still counts the New Republic as the rebellion.
Yeah, and I mean that's what a lot of Imperials did. Like it wasn't an exclusion. The
Yeah.
Empire never fully acknowledged the New Republic. They always they always referred to them as the rebels because in their eyes that's what they were. They were the group that came about and started rebelling against the galactic order at large.
Yeah. So I would consider he's not really like an anti-hero.
Anti-villain is
Yeah,
the
he's
closest
an anti-villain.
I closely consider him more of an anti-villain. If I had to put him on a proper like is he hero, anti-hero, anti-villain, villain? Where does he fit? He is definitely on the anti-villain spectrum because he's not a malicious villain in the same sense of like Palpatine.
No.
Because Palpatine was just evil for the sake of evil's sake, especially if you look at his canon version. This man went out of his way to do bad and did bad things in doing bad things.
So Palpatine is an evil villain because he did everything for the sake of power.
Yeah.
For personal power.
Yeah.
Whereas Thrawn is a villain, but he's more like an imperial hero.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not doing it for power, he's doing it to bring about order.
So, and that's the thing that I wanted to that I think was the point that I think he tried to make was like he's more of a hero for the Empire rather than just being the villain. Because honestly, I personally think that Sabayos may actually have been a bigger villain.
Oh no, he was the villain.
Yeah, he was capital V villain.
Yeah, he was Palpatine villain. He did everything for power, for personal power.
Yeah, like he was the proper villain, whereas Thrawn was more the driving antagonistic force.
Yeah.
That's another thing I think a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't actually consider. When people think antagonist, they always assume villain. An antagonist is not always your villain. Oftentimes, your villain could be the protagonist.
Yeah.
Like
what the fuck was his name?
I mean, like
this is a poll. The one guy from Ben 10. Who could turn his body into metal?
Kevin 11?
Yes. He was not a villain. He was an antagonist.
I'd argue he's more anti-hero or anti-villain.
Well, once you get into once you get farther into the story, then he's an anti-hero. He's a Han Solo.
He's the guy willing to do more than what your standard hero would.
He's okay with doing bad things for the sake of good.
Yeah.
Whereas a hero will not do bad things for the sake of good. They will do good, and they will be like, well, there's another way to do it. We can't do it that way.
There's
So
always
that's why you have the anti-heroes like, yeah, but if we do it that way, if we do this one bad thing, it comes out to do a good thing in the end.
The hero is always the person that tries to look for the only good path in things.
Yeah.
They try to look for the best good path to go about. And they may not always have that option, but they will always try to go for the path that gives them the best outcome for everybody.
Yeah. So anti-hero is the ends justify the means.
Yes.
Whereas a hero is the ends do not justify the means.
Yeah.
Like they both want the same thing, but an anti-hero is willing to get their hands dirty to do it.
Yeah.
Which is Thrawn. He's willing to get his hands dirty for the sake of essentially reuniting the Empire.
His goal was to overthrow the rebellion and trying to ensure the Empire's success. Yeah. His goal was never to go out of his way to do over-the-top evil shit.
Now, what I think is crazy, again, because I just finished the original Thrawn trilogy, is that they don't actually know that he's a full alien.
Mm-hmm.
They keep referring to him as like he's a mix.
He's a half-breed.
Yeah. He's human, but he's something else too. But like everyone knows, nah, dude, he's Chiss. What do you mean? That dude's Chiss as fuck. What do you mean he's part human? Which I thought was wild. So I'm trying to figure out, like, when did they actually figure out that, like, the Chiss are a thing? Probably in the duology.
It is definitely in the duology.
Probably in the duology.
That, and I think they also bring up the Chiss's existence in the... I think they also do that in the Outbound Flight book.
Oh, probably.
Which, if you haven't read that one's also another song.
I need to do that, because I need to figure out, like... Because everyone's like, oh yeah, Jorah Sabayoth went out for the Outbound Flight. And I went, I've heard of Outbound Flight. I have no idea what it is. I'm going to have to read the
Outbound Flight was the Republic's attempt to... That was their first attempt to lead a mass expedition to expand into the unknown regions and beyond. And they did this by establishing a super cruiser that they dubbed the Outbound Flight, which was a multitude of, I think it was 6 Invincible class dreadnoughts that they slapped together on various struts to connect it as one superstructure.
Yep.
And
I know what the Outbound Flight is. I know what its purpose was, but I've never actually read the books.
Yeah, there's a big mixed story for that one, because on one hand you've got Thrawn dealing with this group of smugglers and getting to see what his time in the Chiss was like. Mm-hmm. You get to see him as part of the Chiss Expeditionary Force. And then you have him dealing with people from the known galaxy who he happened upon in a passing scouting mission. You get to see a lot of the characters who I believe also show up in the Thrawn duology. You get to see some of the characters who are relevant to his story in the Thrawn duology.
Now, see, that's what I think like makes Thrawn a cool character, because he had no idea like the rest of the galaxy was out there. He was just part of the Ascendancy. Mm-hmm. And then he finds out that there's different species out there and really goes, yeah, but like, what's their art like?
I think his big thing was he also comes across the idea of what these forces of the what these other forces outside the galaxy are like. Like that was a big thing in that book, and I think was also a big thing for part of his story in the canon Thrawn trilogy, was him spending time in the Empire to learn about the various species and their cultures, while serving as basically a plant by the Chiss.
Yeah.
Because that was his...
So cool.
He is one of the best multi-layered characters, but there's a lot we could go on
We could.
for
What we need to
hours.
do is we need to save a lot of this shit for the Thrawn episodes. Multiple.
Yeah, it's a multi-parter. Thrawn is going to have a multi-parter, and I almost want to save him. Much as I thought about it, because I remember he was going to be like our 100th episode. I don't know if both of us would be able to hold out that long.
You said 100 and I went,
I think neither of us are going to be able to hold out that long. So if we do Thrawn, we're probably looking at doing him as like our 50th, because we're already...
Dude, we're like, what? This is like 10 episodes in? And we're only like, yeah, but Thrawn, though!
We're going to freaking have to... At the very least, we're going to have to start chunking through some of his stuff. So at the very minimum, we can probably start with his story in The Heir to the Empire.
Yep.
Like, do that... like, we covered that trilogy. And then and then at some point later, we cover the Outbound Flight. Sometime later, we go into the Empire of the Hand books. Go into the Empire of the Hand themselves.
That'd be cool.
And then even later than that, we go into his canon story, because I'm sure by that point, it'll actually be flushed out enough to be able to cover him more in that sense.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe by then we will finally have that movie that Dave Filoni is supposed to be making.
God, I hope it's good.
I'm hoping, based on everything I know about Mandalorian Grogu, I'm not hopeful on that movie. And I know that's supposed to be their prelude for that. Or that's supposed to be their prelude for the Thrawn movie.
Are you serious?
Yes. Mandalorian Grogu is going to serve as the prelude. It's supposed to serve as a prelude before the Thrawn movie, the animated Thrawn movie that Dave Filoni is making. And yes, it is going to be an animated movie.
God damn it. Here's the thing. As much as I love animated movies, like I went to school for animation. I love animation. It's so cool. I don't want Thrawn animated. I want a live action, sick as shit Thrawn movie.
What a lot of people are wanting. We'll see what that tie looks like, but I think for now, we have pretty much covered everything we need to about Dathomir, because there's not a whole lot else to cover for this one. So,
except for the Night Sisters themselves, which is next episode.
That'll be next week. We get the Night Sisters next week, and our final part for Spooky Month. Not our final part for the Legacy of Dathomir, though, because there will be a character segmentation that comes up. A mix of characters that come up in relation to this that we will cover to probably a great detail. Cool. Give their stories give some of their story, because there's honestly 3 characters I think I want to cover in regards to them. So we're going to give them the coverage after the Dathomir saga, after our spooky season ends, because we probably are not going to be able to cover them all through this. We're going to go over we've gone over Dathomir. We got the Night Witches we got the Witches of Dathomir next, and then afterwards, I did want to hold it as its own segment, but I think because of its tie to Dathomir, we may be doing Death Troopers for our final part in spooky season.
I mean, that's probably one of the spookiest things.
It is.
Unless you want to do Abeloth.
Abeloth is going to be a different segment entirely. We will cover.
It's going to be next spooky season.
That'll be next spooky season, because that's actually a pretty good segment to cover. Because by that point, we probably will have dived in a bit on a lot of the expanded Legends stuff.
Yep.
We'll probably get to go over a lot of the Legends content. So, because I want to touch on a lot of the stuff regarding the Vong War.
Oh, the Vong War is gonna be fucking forever.
Vong War is going to be depressing.
It's gonna suck, dude.
The Vong War is. We kind of have to talk about the Vong War, though.
I know we do. It's super important, but goddamn.
The Vong War is. If we end up going into stuff that happens after, Vong War has to happen. Like, that's.
Krait's after Vong War, right?
Krait is after Abeloth. That's Legacy Era.
Okay.
Darth Krait is Legacy Era, and that's a segment I very much want to get to. But we have to get through. We have to get through Vong. We have to get through the Darkness Crisis. Darth Caedus. And then we have to get through Abeloth.
Okay.
So
that seems so far away.
It's a lot.
It's fine. It's fine. It'll be a fun journey. It'll be a fun journey.
It'll be a long journey, but it'll be a fun one. I should be able to compartmentalize it so it's easy to digest.
Darth Krait is the friends we made along the way.
Darth Krait is... Dude, Krait is actually... Legacy Era stuff is definitely something I want to touch on because, honestly, I know there's a lot of people that give Legacy Era a lot of shit. I actually loved Legacy Era. Legacy's
got cool stuff!
Legacy Era was the era of Star Wars that I think Disney should have tried to cover.
Yeah.
That was the era, I think, if they wanted to do, like, we're not going to really touch on the Vong stuff. We're not going to do the Vong War. We're going to do this time well after when Great Apocalypse has struck the galaxy. We're going to look at Star Wars in a completely different light. We're going to give all these different characters these different roles.
Yeah.
And we're completely pushing our main cast out. No Chewbacca, no Lando, no Luke, no Leia, no Han. Here's a whole new cast.
So instead of a long time ago, it's a not so long time ago. In a galaxy far, far away.
I mean, we don't know how long it is, technically, but...
More recently, in a galaxy far, far away.
I mean, the Legacy Era happens over 100 years after the Vong War ends. So, we know it's well... Because another big part of that is I want to cover the Fell Empire.
Yeah.
That's a segment that I've been dying to cover.
You know, I agree with you 100%. I think Disney should have just been like, hey, we want to make our own stories. So they should have either done Old Republic shit.
Yep.
Or they should have done, like, their take on the legacy.
Let's do a fresh take on Legacy Era without the main characters. Let's not even tie relation to the main characters in this. Let's make an entirely new story with an entirely new set of, like, Skywalkers. Yeah. Let's have an entirely new Skywalker who's so far distant from, like, Luke or Anakin.
Luke Skywalker was my great-great-great-grandfather. And you're like, holy shit.
Like, because the one that's covered there... Well, be able to cover that, and we may cover that after, we may cover that before Abeloth. We may cover that one before, we may start to cover Legacy Era before Abeloth, but we're probably going to cover it, so probably going to touch on part of Abeloth before we get to her.
Okay, well, here's the thing. We have to, if you live in a world post-Abeloth, we have to talk about Abeloth.
Well, the problem is, the thing is, we're probably going to, I mean, by the time we get to Legacy Era, we're probably going to be talking about the stuff that came, because Legacy comes well after Abeloth, Vong, Caedus, and Dark Nest. So it's so far removed from, it's so distant from after the Vong War that it's able to be covered, but it makes sense that at the very least we cover the Vong War and everything that happens after that, which includes Abeloth.
Man.
Vong War at the very least. We don't have to go into everything.
Depressing.
We don't have to go into everything prior to the Vong War, to get into everything that comes after.
Yeah, that's true.
Because most of it is just minor. Because there's some characters that we'll probably cover on their own, specifically one of Sunterfell's boys.
Mm-hmm. Dude. Okay. So I started playing X4 again.
Mm-hmm.
The Interworlds mod. So it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm just flying around, doing dumb shit, pinging things, being like, oh, hey, there's something over here. What's over here? The Vong are in there.
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, oh, cool. Well, I mean, I made a custom start, so I'm in a pretty decent fighter ship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take some pot shots at this fucking thing, see what happens. And then 30,000 fucking Vong fighters come out. Like, oh, shit! And I'm dead. Like, just fucking dead. Like,
Oh, hey,
awesome.
Oh, hey, would you lo and behold, that's actually how Vector Prime happens.
That sucks, dude.
Dude, like, I'm not even joking. One minor touch on Vong stuff, because honestly, I may just have us cover that after we cover all the Night Sister stuff, because we're going to be, I'm going to say this, the characters I'm going to be covering are heavy Clone Wars oriented.
Yeah.
So, we're probably going to want that dip from dip into a different era, so that's probably the direction we're going to go after we cover those characters.
Yep. So it's Dathomir, and then back to Clone Wars,
Dathomir,
and then
the
straight
witches.
to fucking Legacy.
We're gonna be covering Dathomir, the witches, Blackwing, and the Death Troopers, and then the 3 characters who are all Clone Wars oriented.
Yep. Bouncing around all over the place. This is fine. This is fun.
And then after that, we jump right into Vong, which honestly works because we probably would be able to work that considering we'd be coming up on holiday season.
Yep.
So,
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we gonna talk about Life Day?
No. No. No, not this season. We're going to avoid that like the plague this season. Because I don't want to touch it. We're going to save that for... I almost want to make it an April Fool's. I almost want to make that an April Fool's coverage.
Christmas in July? Life Day in July?
I don't want to cover it.
You know we have to, though!
I don't want to cover it.
Oh God!
We
should plan like a fucking MSK 3000 or MST 3000 esque viewing of fucking Life Day, the holiday special.
God.
You got like what, like an hour and a half, 2 hours to kill on a day, right? We can just watch the movie.
Honestly, the bad part is we probably could.
Oh!
The worst part is, I know for a fact you and me could do that. We honestly could just ignore Life Day as a topic and just do a review of the fucking... We could do a fucking review of the fucking holiday special if we wanted to make it. If I don't know which is worse. I don't know which is worse.
What we do is we just make it the worst time ever and do both.
Oh
we it's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
One week is the movie.
Yep.
And then immediately after that, we talk about Life Day.
We actually do the topic coverage for Life
Yep.
Day. I think we're probably going to save that for next year. I think we save that for next year exclusively because I want to withhold as much sanity as I
can. Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm in the sane mind. So we're going to talk about the Vong War.
Look, I don't want to go from depressingly stupid to stupid. Like,
just get it all out of the way. Rip the Band-Aid off.
That's like having me do a freaking... That's like asking me to decide if I'm going to have a freaking philosophical debate with an Ewok or going to try to out beatbox a freaking Gungan.
I hate Gungans. Not as much as Boffins, but it's close.
It's a close second for
It's
you.
close. It's close. I posted that meme in chat the other day.
I saw it.
Like, I agree wholeheartedly with that man. It'll be a cold day in hell before I realize the Gungans as my equals.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and cut this one off here, and we're gonna go, and we will pick this up next. We'll pick up next week with the Night Sisters, because I think that's just gonna be we're gonna do Night Sisters, and then the 26th, the week before Halloween, we will be doing the Blackwing virus and the Death Troopers. The probably the spookiest thing Star Wars ever made.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot really that comes up outside, like, between the Death Trooper novel and Red Harvest. There's a lot of fucked up stuff in those stories. Dude, like, the audiobook for Death Troopers definitely fucking scarred me.
I mean, yeah, it's...
And Red Harvest is... I could probably do freaking... That'd be a fun little thing to do on the side at some... It may actually be a fun little, like, topic to try to do at some point, is do, like, a weird book club thing.
Yeah,
or like Star Wars.
As you were talking about, I'm going on to Audible right now to see if they have those books on me.
I know for a fact they have Red Harvest because it's in my library, and I know for a fact they have Death Troopers. I don't know if it's the unabridged version, though. I don't know if they've gotten the unabridged version of Death Troopers.
Death Troopers, Star Wars Legends. It doesn't say if it's unabridged or not.
I would probably have to check that, but we're gonna go ahead and cut it off. We will see you all next week. The stream schedule will follow. Stream schedule is out. Tuesday with the boys coming up. Wednesday we're picking up the Hut playthrough again, and Thursday we're gonna do some more of the Sparking Zero story. Picking up Gohan's story this time. Then, of course, our spooky series continues, and it also looks like my spooky game of the year that I will be playing will be a playthrough of Alien Isolation.
Oh.
So I'll have to look at picking that up in the near future. So hope to see you all for those, and see you all next time. Been the Freelancer, signing off until next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.